तू चलता चल, तू चलता चल, तू चलता चल.
When I was in class 5, this was when my father was posted at Babina. और 5वीं क्लास में वो मुझे याद है हिंदी के क्लास टीचर होते थे और उन्होंने वो एक पहले होता था ना कि राइट अ लेटर टू योर फादर कि आप क्या बनना चाहते हैं जिंदगी में, क्या करना चाहते हैं, कुछ इस समय का था. और मुझे बहुत अच्छी से याद है कि वो हिंदी का था एंड आई वाज वेरी गुड एट लैंग्वेज और मेरी हैंड राइटिंग भी अच्छी थी, तो आई रोट और छोटा सा लिख के हमने सबमिट कर दी कॉपी. तो मेरे ख्याल से शाम के टाइम में या दूसरे दिन क्लास टीचर ने बोला कि अपने फादर को बुला के लाना. ना फादर को बुला के लाना स्कूल में, इट इज बेसिक यार कि तूने कुछ गड़बड़ किया होगा जरूर.
एक्चुअली
इट इज स्टैंडर्ड. तो मैं भी आया, बट आई वाज दैट टाइम really a good boy. I might have been adulterated now. So मैं आया, मैंने मदर को बोला कि ऐसा क्लास टीचर ने बोला है. तो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन वाज कि क्या कुछ तुमने कुछ किया है क्या गड़बड़. मैंने कहा नहीं यार, मैंने कुछ गड़बड़ नहीं किया. But then why should he ask you father to come? I don't know. And your father came and my mother would have told. He also asked me कि बेटा क्या हुआ, why has he asked me to come? I said I don't know बेटा. So anyway, he didn't ask me, and next day I went to the school and my father was brought in by the class teacher after some time. And वो खुशफुश होती है ना क्लास में यार कि तेरे पापा आए हैं, आज कुछ डंडा पड़ने वाला है, कुछ होगा तमाशा. Well, I was okay, and he takes out my that notebook where I had written that, and he reads there. And Mani, I think since you asked me this question now I've been narrating on my as to how thought processes remain embodied in you. कहाँ पे क्या चीज लिंक होती है, one does not know. तो उसमें मैंने लिखा था कि letter to father कि you know the normal this thing, and I wrote that कि मैं एक भारत की सैन्य सेवा में जाना चाहता हूं और मैं भारत का सिपाही बनना चाहता हूं और देश के प्रति अगर जरूरत पड़े तो मैं अपनी जान को भी निछावर करने को तैयार हूं. तो ये जो लास्ट की लाइन शब्द था, लाइन, आई थिंक वाज मूव्ड बाय यू नो माय क्लास टीचर गॉट मूव्ड कि यार ये बच्चा जो है ना 5वीं का, ही इज टॉकिंग शहादत की बात और ये सब है. वेल आई थिंक इट जस्ट केम टू माय माइंड एंड आई रोट इट. लेटर ऑन आई रियलाइज्ड कि अगर मैं ये कहूं कि मैं सीडीएस ऐसे अपीयर हो गया, चला गया, nahi, I think there was something which was already there in my body existing. So when today's children, when they say that I wish to join academy or military or navy or air force, well, today's children are, I think, more aware. They are more clear in their domains. I'll see put it there. So this is how I think ended up joining. I always loved, of course, जो पहले के जो सेनानी होते थे उनकी स्टोरीज में पढ़ता था काफी. तो आई थिंक इट वाज देयर इन माय माइंड, बट आई वाज नॉट solely focused to join army itself. My design was to do some research work, actually, to be very precise, Nehru, and do some further studies. But when I got selected, I asked my father ki papa, I wanted to do this, and he only told me ki it is your choice, but I think you are आपको लग रहा है कि आप आराम से मिल गया, but you have put in your effort. So it is your call, but I will always suggest, and I took that call, and I think it transformed my life. Certainly.
यार जयंत, ये कौन सी क्लास में लिखी थी आपने चिट्ठी?
5वीं क्लास की बात है, 5th बबीना में, केंद्रीय विद्यालय.
5वीं में आपने चिट्ठी लिखी शहादत के बारे में, and buddy, God almost brought you there.
Yes.
तू तो मरते मरते बचा यार.
मैं कोरिलेट करता हूँ मनी की, everything happens with a purpose. हम हर छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं. Today, of course, I am into that process. I think we will let you know later. आज के टाइम में मैं उसी को I am trying to discover my life and share with people. So आज का प्लेटफॉर्म मनी, इसलिए मैं बहुत I was very happy to be very precise that these are the minds. हम लोग भी इस स्टेज से गुजरे हैं. बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं, बहुत डिफरेंसेस आते हैं, सोच होती है, परेशानियां होती हैं कि नहीं होगा. Everything is possible. जिंदगी में हर चीज पॉसिबल. आई थिंक देयर इज नथिंग वेरी थिंग व्हिच आर वेरी बिग, और हो जाती है.
जयंत, अभी ना क्यूरियोसिटी हैज बीन अरिजन अबाउट दिस, यू नो, दिस शहादत वर्ड आ गई. आपका ऑपरेशन है शौर्य चक्र वाला, यार थोड़ा इसके बारे में बताइए दो, क्या क्या हुआ था. यू नो, इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट, देन वी विल मूव विद अदर थिंग.
That the action on which I got the Shaurya Chakra.
हाँ यार, वो थोड़ा बता यार, मेरे को इसके सवाल मैंने भी आपसे पूछे हुए हैं पहले भी, अभी भी पूछूंगा।
So this was this was precisely on 31st July 1996, and my unit was battalion was deployed in Kashmir. This was in Kupada area, to be very precise, in the general area Tregam. And I was the company commander. I had gone back after my staff college for AE period and all. And that area is, of course, even today, I suppose it is infested. And that time, of course, it was quite one of the major routes of people moving across. So, we were into it. Some encounters here and there, every third day, fourth day, some connections. So this was a day on 30th July, I suppose, one day prior. I was away somewhere, and my brigade commander, if you recollect money, there used to be one DP merchant company commander, IMMA. He was the brigade commander.
अच्छा, okay.
And somehow we had developed a good connect. So he looked forward because I knew my entire area very well. So he called me, and so I went there, and he said, "Ki we have got the intercept, and there is some intercept, and which is so very clear. So you also listen." I listened, and those code things were there, 33, 34, all these. I said, "Sir, ye to iska hai, ye iska hai." And one guy was a battalion commander of Hizbul Mujahideen from that area, and one guy was a company commander for the same group. He was on a similar belt. I said, "Sir, ये तो इन दोनों का कोड है, and ये जो बता रहे हैं, ये दोनों आपस में बात कर रहे हैं that there is a group which has infiltrated, and they are staying night at some, they called it, I think, 0 point, something like that they are at 0 point, and either the company commander was telling the battalion commander कि मैंने इनको यहाँ तक किया है, you come and take them further ahead." So this group of 12 mercenaries, foreign mercenaries, were to be escorted by the battalion commander. Farooq Zangli was his name, of course. So this was the input. Now the point was, which is that 0 point? They said they are going to be at 0 point. No, 0 point was their code. So we could, by our knowledge, both the guys were staying just on the below of a ridge line, which we knew it. Unka ghar tha. And that's how the conversation was there. So that ridge line used to come and then used to take a turn down. So I suggested, I said, "Sir, यहाँ पे तो और कुछ है नहीं. I think यही एक point हो सकता है. बाकी तो बड़ी बड़ी ridge line है, चल रही है." So anyway, we came to conclusion there that probably we'll go up and search. So we decided, and throughout the night, we started moving up, and it was almost 3 to 4 hours of a climb from a little, because you can't naturally straight away go up. And I remember we were moving with, I think, 24, 25 guys together. And aim was to reach there by 3:30, 4 o'clock. So we were almost there by 4:30 or so. So we had adopted, because this input was very, very clear. And it should not happen that, you're climbing and they are sitting there and they will invite you that come. It would have been very hazardous. And actually, when you're climbing the mountain from a distance, it might appear a point, but when you're climbing mountain, everything is, is so wide and you really can't make out. And there was nothing known as something like, you are going on to hitting onto the 0 points like that. Anyway, we climbed up and climbed little behind onto the ridgeline. And our process was that we will go down searching. So we came up, and when the day broke, we started carrying out search. We searched for an hour plus. Very deliberately, we couldn't find anything. And you see, I had to make a call because I was the mission leader. I was the company commander. And it was appearing to me that there are no militants, or we are not at the right spot. अब पहाड़ के बीच में और जंगल, thick जंगल के बीच में, it is very difficult to make out, are you at the right spot or not? Whether that angle is there or not, until you go down. Anyway, we did the search. We could not find anything. So when I was satisfied that either this 0 point is not where I was thinking, or something is there, But I was convinced. I said, okay, let's move down. So when we were about to move down, probably there was a very thick bushy patch around 50 yards by 50 yards. And I could see that, we were rolling down from there. So I divided my party into three. JCO was there on to the right side, and I went to the left side little, and NCO Havaldar followed with one party, straight route. So I went to the left side and went ahead. I could see and came up ahead. And the JCO was other side of the bushes. I couldn't see him. And the NCO's party, when they're falling behind me, suddenly a guy shouts, बहुत जोर से कि साहब वो कुछ है इधर में, something like that. I think बोलने में मुझे ज़्यादा time लग रहा होगा. And I turned, I said, यार कोई है तो fire करो. And for the people who are listening here, and Mani, you will agree that it is very tricky situation, that it should not happen that we open fire and we kill civilians. So that is a very, very dilemma and situation like that. And probably because of that Gorkha soldier would have shouted, कि साहब क्या करें? And I said कि यार अगर है तो fire करो. And I came up. When I came up, by the time he had stopped the firing, I came up and I said कि यार तूने तो कितना fire किया? So he had actually put the LMG light machine on shoulder, और magazine was loaded. बोला साहब वो तो एक पूरी magazine out हो गई. I gave him a slap. I say यार तूने तो क्या इतना fire थोड़ी करना था. Anyway, मैंने कहा क्या हुआ, किधर कोई बंदे कोई मरे हैं कि ऐसी फायर कर दिया? बोलता साहब वो एक तो ये सामने मरा था. I saw that and he was in पठान suit, civil dress. And I say यार तुम लोगों ने civilian मार दिया लगता है यार. And I moved inside comfortably like this. And then there was another guy in the similar kind of a dress. He was actually dying. And I said यार कि ये तो civilian है यार, तुम लोगों ने मतलब, I was little not very happy. And then I took ऐसे turn किया मैंने सिर, as I suddenly see there were huge rucksacks, combat color. They were all packed to leave. And the moment I saw those rucksacks, I jumped. I said they are militants. And then they opened fire for somewhere inside the bushes. Of course, the bullets never hit us, but it was confirmed that they are militants, and they were actually ready to move. And they probably got surprised. They could not, we were, I think, credit certainly goes to the team that they were moving really stealthily. Otherwise, after moving for 5-6 hours and thinking that nothing is there, it is one of those days, we get used to and we start moving like that. Probably they could not hear our movement. Otherwise, it would have been fatal on us. They would have ambushed us. Anyway, after that, the action started. Now, the thing was that the militants were hiding somewhere in the bushes. And JCO also from the other side, he also opened fire. And I asked him, he said, Sahab, I could hear some movement here. So they could be probably inside that bushy patch. So I went up and there was no movement after that. So I went up and we fired, machine guns and threw grenades inside those areas. But there was no firing or no retaliation from the militants. Now the question was to take a call. कि 2 militant मरे हैं, 12-13 rucksacks हैं. It's good enough. Mission is over. I think militants have run away. But I thought that no, I think we still have to search. We will go inside and carry out a search. So that was the decision I had to take, and I took that call. मैंने कहा इतनी firing की है, not even one round their militants have fired. So या तो they have a very high code of conduct, or they have moved away. And we entered, we slowly entered. And on our haunches, we were sitting and moving. We were 5 people, I remember. I was there, my radio operator 2, 3, 4, 2 more soldiers, and one was dog handler. We were 5 people, one me and one side, very close, we were moving, step by step, bush to bush. And suddenly I realized that my one guy was next to me. He just fires almost like at me. And I tell him what? So actually in front of me, there was a bush. And just in front of bush, there was a militant who was just sitting like this. And this Gurkha, he just fires straight onto the militant. very close. It was exceedingly close. But anyway, I think it was good credit for him that he shot him, but no other retaliation. And we moved ahead. And after that, I could see another one. So, I shot it. And before he could shoot, he was shot there. Now, so this was the 4 guys who were shot. And after that, what happened?
You were carrying a carbine with you, or what were you carrying?
AK-47.
Yeah,
we all were carrying AK-47.
AK-47.
Yeah. And so after that, there was a slight opening into the bushy patch. So we got up. And I got up, and the moment I got up, I called up for the dog handler. I said, "Yaar, isko na smell karao," because it was in the heat. Smell karao, and he said, "Sir, bilkul sahi baat hai. Smell to kara denge, but the problem is that the militants, if they are close by, the dog will straight away take you there, and it might be fatal." So that's why sometimes, people, when they think that, army, everything moves like hierarchy, or just boss ne bola hai wahi hota hai. No, it is not like. When we are in operation, we all are leaders, and every Jawan is a leader. And I straight away accepted the point of view of dog handler. He says, "Saab, unko telltale marks हम देख के चलते हैं. अभी fresh है, घास के ऊपर, पता चल जाएगा. जहां जरूरत होगी वहीं पे करेंगे." You see, he was a सिपाही, but I really credit his mindfulness or thought. We didn't use the dog. I got up and we started moving. There was a bifurcation of foot marks. So I moved, and in the meantime, I heard some firing. And that firing, militants were firing using AK-47 with silencer.
Okay.
So that awaz was coming little put type.
Understood.
You could make out. So they opened fire, but we couldn't make out कि सामने से आ रहा था. So I moved little upish, करीब 10 step, and there was a Jawan who was there. So I was telling कि ख्याल रखना यार, इधर से ही फायर किया था उसने. ऐसे सामने करके बता रहा था कि ख्याल रखना, इधर से ही फायर किया था. And there was, bushes were much taller than my Gurkha Jawan. And when I was telling that ख्याल रखना, इधर से ही फायर किया था उन्होंने, I saw those 2 militants there in front of me exactly, just the other side bushes, and I was up and they were firing at me. So this action, I very clearly remember that they were firing at me, and I knew that I heard that sound, they had fired, and I was very close, just like this, and I jumped. And when I jumped there, they actually kept firing, and I fell down. Now, when I fell down, I crossed that Jawan, and then fell down. Fortunately for me, I fell down. In front of me, there was a tree. And these 2 guys was actually behind that tree. They started firing at me. So when I fell down, I knew that today I'm shot. It came to my mind. Because we had been through some encounters, but it was a very close. And I saw that he's firing for such a close like this, and I'm a target on up. I have to be hit. So when I fell down, first thing which I did was to breathe little heavily. कि सांस चल रही है कि नहीं. So this was a feeling, and my breathing was perfectly fine. My arms were perfectly okay. So I thought, okay, it is again one of those great days. And then, of course, the firing started. I was there, and there was no other soldier. My radio operator was the guy who was actually witnessing everything from a little higher ground. And rest guys were on to behind. And then we kept firing 3 के साथ में ऐसे. And my magazine finished, which I had loaded on my weapon. तो मैं उस magazine को निकाल के ऐसे drop किया, and I put my hand here to take out my another magazine. And then I realized that there was something wrong. I couldn't take out my magazine. Actually, what had happened, that burst he had hit was actually onto the left side of my chest. And the burst of bullets had actually hit the magazine, and magazine had busted. So I didn't have that. So that, and then busted, and those bullets had entered my hand. Fortunately, not inside my body. And that is the time I saw that I have been injured. And then I could feel that, my left side was all soaked in blood. And people ask me sometimes that, were you afraid or not? I said, there was no feeling of fear initially. But when I really realized that, you have been hurt, and you have been bullet has hit you somewhere, yes, there was a caution which was certainly put into the mind. But the answer was to, either to eliminate them or it was 1-to-1 fight. So I called for one of the Jawans, the magazine. And when they realized that I was asking for a magazine, they fired a lot of direct firing grenades all around me. Because they could make out that he's the guy, maybe the officer or something. Anyway, one Jawan crawled to me. He just stood next to me and he gave me magazine, and I think 4-5 burst, and those 2 guys were killed by the time. And that is the time. And then we came out in the process. My rocket launchers I had placed onto a side. They also fired twice. Very close. It is not technically sound or tactically sound position, but they fired in a very close quarters launcher, because it was all innovative. Whatever you had to do. So I placed and then I went. It was a very close, and twice rocket launchers had fired. And later on they said they are also seeing 2-3 guys moving that side. So one was to fire the launcher or to leave it, and time is at a premium. And then of course we culminated that operation. We searched the entire area again. After that injury, maybe an hour or so, and then consolidated the position. Then we spoke to everyone. And after that, coming down the mountain was around hour and a half again, walking down. So that was the basically operation. And so I was the casualty basically. I always felt that, in that tenure, I was the first casualty in my command. My soldiers, we had undergone a lot of encounters, but I always took a pride that under me, there was no casualty. I as a leader, could take the first bullet. So that was the thing. That was the operation for which I got the Shaurya Chakra award.
यार जयंत गोली लगी तेरे को पता ही नहीं चला?
No.
कुछ
I
नहीं
think
पता।
I never realized. That's what I was saying. When I fell down, I was dead sure that today I have to be hit, because it was so close that they can't miss me. And when I fell down, first thing which I remember very absolutely clear, that I got down and I breathed here, because I knew that I'm hit today, but I didn't know that I've been hit. Maybe that the mind was so much occupied there, and you jumped and you wanted to be there, and that's where the adrenaline rush is there so much. Your body is so warm, and your mind is to kill militants. And then and after getting down, I was still firing and engaging. One never knew that. That probably the pain. You see, I think that's a very finer issue, that pain is when we feel it, I think. When the mind, when I saw my blood, probably I told I think there was a caution came up that today you are hit, because I had a reasonable degree of encounters. Almost 4th day, 5th day, we used to have an encounter, successful, good encounters. But every time, we never had a casualty to ourselves. Not even one Jawan was ever any bullet touched. So,
जयंत ऑपरेशन में गोली लगने से हॉस्पिटल पहुंचने तक कितना घंटा elapse हो गया था आपका?
यार 1.5 घंटे तो मैं नीचे उतरा, उसके बाद से I think by the time I reached, people were there, and उसके बाद से 1 hour more, और गोली लगने से कुछ नहीं तो 3.5-4 घंटे यार.
तो कितना ब्लड लॉस हो गया था?
Blood loss was there, I think. By the time I came down the mountain, and I must tell you one more thing. When we are coming down, we saw one more rucksack. Just imagine, you are actually not, and money I can always share and let people hear. Yes, when I was coming down, when I was away from this, I knew that I've been hit somewhere, but in the arm. So I was that much comfortable, and I could move. But my arm had become very thick. It has swelled up very badly, left upper arm. And by the time I came down, it was quite so, maybe half an hour there, 1.5, 2 hours, and an hour. Certainly not less than 3 hours. And of course, when I reached the hospital, in Dogrumal, there was no hospital. Field ambulance was there.
Field ambulance.
And it was in Hartmans that time.
Yeah.
And so when I went there, there was an acute ward. So we went there, and there was no officer ward, or there's nothing like that. So I went there, and that mobile X-ray machine was brought in. वो लंबा सा था ऐसे, and the doctor was there, and I lied down. So one guy comes up and he put a blade. कि सर ये शर्ट को काट के निकाल देंगे ऐसे, because हाथ ना पूरा ऐसे swell हो गया था, and lot of splinter marks, और काफी कुछ शर्ट भी फट गया था. So I told him, I said, wait यार, ये क्या कर रहे हो तुम? बोलता साहब ये काट के निकालना पड़ेगा इसको शर्ट को. मैं कहा नहीं यार, प्लीज. अब वो पता नहीं कहाँ चला गया, वो अभी तो रख नहीं पाया. मैंने कहा यार ये मेरा सोवेनियर है यार, तुम यार पंगा कर रहे हो, तुम इसको काट कूट के कमीज को हटा दोगे. And the doctor later on told, he said, I was just stunned to see you are more worried about your souvenir to keep, और तेरे हाथ में दर्द नहीं हो रहा था. So I said, sir, पता नहीं अभी क्या है, जो भी है. So I took out my shirt like this, and it was a good fun. When I was there for 17 days in that hospital, the staff of the Jawans of that hospital used to play volleyball in the evening. So after I think 7-8 days, I used to be in shorts and nothing wearing up. I used to go and play volleyball with them with one hand. Okay. So they used to be really admiring. He said, यार ये बंदा जो है ना, मैं कि यार हम normal आदमी हैं, या तो अपने कमरे में बैठ के रोते रहो. You keep cussing. So there are a lot of things associated with it. My wife didn't know till 3 days. She had to inform my parents. You see, this is a very great responsibility. The CEO, of course, has to intimate to the next of kin. And my wife had to inform my parents. And my wife could not speak to my parents for 3 days after knowing this instance. And she only suggested to me that, how could I, because the first question my parents would have asked her, कि तुमने उससे बात किया? तो मैं क्या जवाब दूंगी? And people knew that I used to speak to my wife every day. That operators knew it. And they were in Batinda. And they had placed a telephone next to my bed. But 2 days I was in a lot of, I think, blood loss and pain. So I could speak, but my wife said that I couldn't hear anything from me. 3rd day when she could hear, then of course she called up my parents.